Begin today's meeting by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land in which we are gathered and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to the City Infrastructure Committee meeting of the 30 November 2021. I declare this meeting open at 11:14 a.m. I would like to advise attendees in the room that this meeting is being webcasted and audio recorded, and I remind attendees to practice social distancing and take the necessary safety precautions. Thank you very much, Mr. Maloof. I note that we've received a leave of absence request from the Mayor Power due to personal leave. Are there any further leave of absences to consider? I note that the motion to grant Mayor Power a leave of absence is showing on the screen. Is there a mover for the motion? Councillor Murphy, seconded Councillor Stemp. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That's carried unanimously, except for Councillor Murphy. Thank you very much. Okay. That motion has been carried. I'll now refer to item 4.1. Can the Road and Infrastructure Planning Manager, Mr. Kamal Ranawira, please enter the discussions? But before we open discussion on this item, do any councillors have a conflict of interest to declare? There being none, Mr. Ranawira, you may proceed. Good morning. This is about the statement of intent of bicycle network, bicycle infrastructure. It's a list of projects we normally provide by infrastructure for the next 7 to 10 years. We had a list in 2015 that's going to be running out now in terms of scoping and planning, and that's the status of that list is already presented in the report. The new list, which has about 31 projects, based on a study that was done in 2015, and that study outlines the requirements, network requirements of the cycle network requirements of Logan. There are about 300 projects in that list, so we have extracted 32 out of that. It has high priority. They are around Beenleigh, Browns Plains, Logan Central, Meadowbrook and Springwood centres areas. Obviously, Jimboomba and Logan Village Activity Centre cycle planning will continue, with the activity centre planners are doing their work. Various development activities are also happening, including PDA developments. They're putting bikeways there. And as part of proposed ongoing major roads projects, even rail trail project. Further cycleways connectivity needs relating to those activity centres will also be considered in future SOIs. So cycle path projects are generated by activity centres as well as public transport and schools. That's what the report says. And in conclusion, I would say that there are 31 projects that we like Council to endorse as the next SOI. Thanks very much. I've got Councillors Fraser, Stemp, Herremeyer and Bradley. Councillor Fraser.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So looking at this updated list, there's quite a few projects in Division 7, which is rather awesome. So my question is for Mr. Ranawira. So we just had some scooter, a trial that we approved in our last committee. So do you see any problem with scooters and bicycles sharing these pathways at all? Do you think it would be it'd be a nice thing to have there for people to use? I hope that scooters report outlines some of the work that has happened in Brisbane City area and other areas. So there had been some issues. I'm not saying there aren't, but I can't comment on that completely without knowing completely all the history and all the research so far. Okay, no worries. And also, so these things are supposed to take 5 to 10 years. So I've got 8 out of the top 10 items on the list. How long do you think it would take to get through those 10 items? That's probably more like a delivery question, but I think if you look at the current program, which is
the status of that program is given. There are 12 projects out of 30 was delivered so far. That was in 2015, since 2015. And 7 projects are in the design or progressing in detailed design. 2 projects have been planning and scoping investigation. 6 projects are incorporated into centers planning. So if you look at that track record, it also subjected to funding. So the cycle projects are not completely, estimated at a very high level. It's very brief estimation at this stage available to us. We need to cost them, we need to fund them. The funds are probably coming from TMR and council funding. There is some council funding, but majority of the funding comes from TMR. So it all subject to that. So I can't promise you this is when it's going to happen, but yes, I think we are saying within 10 years we probably will be able to deal with the whole list.
Thanks very much. Before you proceed, Councillor Fraser, Councillor Hall's chomping at the bit. Is this an inflammatory comment? Is it a comment to do with a cat, or is it about the e-scooter trial?
It's in regard to the scooter trial. I think in response to Councillor Fraser's question about whether the e-scooters will impact on the cyclist, I think as a motorist and a former truck driver, I've learned to patiently go around cyclists, and I think now the cyclists will need to learn to patiently go around the e-scooters. And it's funny how the world is so round.
A very wise and sage piece of advice. Thank you, Councillor Hall. Do you have any more questions, Councillor Fraser? Okay, so moving on, we've got Councillor Stem.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I hope you indulge me for I've just got about 3 or 4, but there'll be quick questions, please. Firstly, I just wanted to know whether or not external users such as Bicycle Queensland or the Logan Bicycle User Group, have they been consulted in this space?
Not recently, but when we had this original report, which is mentioned in the report, which has 300 bicycle projects, we consulted them. There was a traffic advisory committee. We put that report in the traffic advisory committee, and it was endorsed at the traffic advisory committee. So we engaged them. They know what those projects are. They know what other priorities are, in other words. I don't know whether I answered the question that way.
Okay, so another question is, with the 5 activity centres obviously noted, are there, they seem to be quite sectioned into the various activity centres, but in terms of linking the activity centres, that sort of wasn't really that clear from these projects. I'm just curious to see your thoughts on the actual linking of these activities.
In the report, it says there are 6 bicycle routes, and I think those are in our website as well, the key bicycle routes. So those are the routes connecting those activity centres.
And also linking to public transport, obviously, the buses and the train station and so forth.
Correct.
Okay. Now finally, concerns raised by the community in relation to cycle networks and so forth is that they need to be suitable for all ages and abilities. So there's often concern raised over the fact that they're on the roads as opposed to on a safer footpath, the footpath network. Looking at this list is sort of a mix of both. Is that being considered when we're looking at new routes, that it is really important that these can be used by all, like by families and all abilities, please?
I think if you are considering connection to schools, we consider that vulnerable users, school kids, and then off-road bicycle facilities in that regard. But I think some of the bicycle lobbying groups are more interested in riding on the road as well. They want some facility on road as well. So that's why the mixed match. But although we have outlined these things, it need to be proofed. I think ground proofed. We got to go and check whether it is possible. most of the bike routes, if you put a on-road bike lane, you lose parking sometimes, you know. And if you put a off-road bikeways, you lose some trees as well. So those things need to be worked out. Those details need to be worked out.
Okay, so if we're in areas like we said around schools and things like that where you expect that children would be riding and around parks and so forth, then focus is on the fact that they should be off-road. Is that correct?
Yes, we will somehow or other try to deliver that. Yes, of course. Yeah.
Sorry. The recommendation has the flexibility to allow for change because this was obviously done back in 2015 originally, we're now 2021. When is it reassessed every, 6 years, or how often is this reassessed, this list?
I think the need for reassess came because we are running out of projects. That's the only need, because if there's funding available to deliver these things earlier, we will assess that and bring another list.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Councillor Jeremiah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On page 2 of the report, it states that in 2015 a master list was created, and it was all about serving generally a 5-kilometre catchment around the 5 activity centres. And I wanted to ask, when I look at the activity centres in the statement of intent for 2021, there's Springwood, which has a 5-kilometre radius around it. There's Logan Central, 5 kilometre, Meadowbrook, 5 kilometre, Beenleigh, 5 kilometre, and then all the way out in the west, there's Browns Plains with a little 2 kilometre radius around it. So I wanted to ask, what's the impact of that 2 kilometre radius on the statement of intent? Does it have any impact at all? And why does Browns Plains have a 2 kilometre radius, whereas all the other activity centres have 5 kilometre radiuses? Thank you, Madam Chair.
That's a good question. Probably I can't answer that, honestly. I think I got to read the report if there is an anomaly or not. But I think the report says 5 kilometre is the area that we are looking at in centres. So if Browns Plains doesn't have that, I need to check that, honestly.
Thank you. And if that can be investigated, that'd be really appreciated, because Browns Plains is a very important activity centre, especially for a huge amount of people, and the 2 kilometre radius really excludes a lot of people in Crestmead and in Heritage Park and in Regents Park who would value cycling infrastructure. So if that can be investigated, that'd be really appreciated.
Councillor Bradley.
Thank you. I think I might be wrong here, that I may be the only person who cycles as a councillor, but anyway, not that I have a conflict of interest, but I do recall when I first started getting Springwood Road and Daisy Hill Road on the bicycle network list, I noticed that Springwood Road is still very low, like squillion years away. Even though I was promised last term that it would be next, but it's not. My question though is, there's 32 projects here, and I'm just curious I don't understand how this can be. Daisy Hill Road, from Springwood Road to Old Chatswood Road, I can't understand how that works. Which is number 32. Can you help me understand that?
Top of the hill, down.
So I'll take the last question first. It's not Old Chatswood Road, it's Chatswood Road, I think. So that's a mistake. It's not Old Chatswood Road. I think it says Old Chatswood Road. Is that the question? So it is.
No, I just can't understand how it works, like on the map.
Down the hill.
Oh, okay, Matt.
It's just Daisy Hill Road from Springwood Road down.
Mr. Director.
Yeah, it's Daisy Hill Road, Springwood Road to Chatswood Road.
That's what it's supposed to be.
Thanks, Kamal. Mr. Ranawira, I'm just going to give the director the opportunity to just say a quick word.
Through you, Madam Chair. Sorry, it's only a misnaming in the street. So where it says Old Chatswood Road, it should just be Chatswood Road. So Chatswood Road joins with Daisy Hill, effectively near John Paul College. Sorry, it's ended up just with a misnaming, that's all. But it should be Chatswood Road, which would join to the previous work which Council did on Daisy Hill Road up from Winnets Road, probably within the last 2 years. Yep.
That makes sense.
Yep.
To get the report amended to reflect that. And if I may, with another question, is it possible the section of Underwood Road which borders with Brisbane and the section of Rochedale Road which borders with Brisbane, can they please be added somewhere in the list for future? Because obviously there's going to be widening of both those roads with Brisbane City Council on Brisbane City Council side, but from memory there is 2 lanes on both sides and bike lanes. So can that please be reflected? So
Yeah, we can put somewhere in the future, but I think when the widening happens, those bikeways will be included.
But I just want that.
Yeah,
May just make sure it's reflected somewhere. Thank you.
there's a lot of discussion need to happen before the widening with Brisbane City Council.
Any other questions? Councillor Hall? Nope. All good? Sign language? Good job. Okay, are there any other questions? Councillor Russell?
Change my mind. Thank you, Madam Chair. So with the prioritisation that we have here, I'm gonna say that the swear word of the day, which is e-scooter, and if the e-scootering project impacts upon the prioritisation, will it be a simple process for us to change the prioritisation of this list, or are we kind of locked in with this?
I kind of don't know how it is going to impact because if e-scooters are going to be in operation, they need to travel on these routes anyway. I don't know how the conflicts are going to be managed, so I can't answer that question whether there could be a conflict or not, because there's several trials have been done. They need to travel on bikeways. So that's, I don't see a big impact that we need to change the prioritization. Yeah.
We've got 2 people wanting to talk at the same time.
I'm happy to.
Mr. Director.
Through you, Madam Chair. I think the thing which Kamal certainly touched on earlier, which will be fairly important in regards to this, is the list which Kamal has prepared, which has come forward, talks about our forward planning, and a big part of that is about us engaging with the state for the funding which we receive under their Cycleways program. So given that that's where a significant amount of that funding comes from, as we see e-scooters, and I've noticed they've been highlighted in other local government areas beyond Brisbane as well, I guess it will be a joint piece of work between us and TMR around that, because we would be very reliant on that funding. We would need to be talking to them around whether they would perceive a change in their position or how they roll that out. So it's not something that we would do in isolation. I certainly agree with Kamal that these will facilitate better use of e-scooters because it provides that off-road facility. But yeah, I think it would be a bigger piece with us and the state before we'd be looking at changing our priorities which are adopted. Yeah.
Thank you. So to clarify, the reason for my question is that we've actually got 4 divisions of the city that will be involved in the trial of the e-scooters and also the bicycles. So that was sort of the logic of my question, which was that it might change the, I guess, which divisions might have, or different parts of divisions that might have more usage by the scooters and the bicycles. Thank you.
Excellent. There being no more questions, can I have, there's a motion up on the screen. It's been up there for a couple of minutes. Hopefully everyone's read it. We have a mover for the motion. Councillor Fraser, seconded Councillor Murphy. Can we have a show of hands? All those in favour of the motion? That's carried unanimously with the exception of Councillor Raven, who isn't attending at the moment. Good to go. Okay, so is there any general business for Mr. Ranawira? There. Go, Councillor Stamp.
Sorry. Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry. Okay, so in light of the council reports in both committees today, progressing safe active transport infrastructure for bikes and/or scooters seems even more important. I thought it might be timely to discuss the Road Safety and Bicycle Advisory Committee, which I believe existed in council pre-2014. I understand it was made up of a couple of councillors, maybe council officers and community cycling groups, and met regularly to discuss the progression of active transport and the needs of the cycling active transport community. I've had a brief discussion with Mr. Ranawira and Councillor Bradley about this and would be keen to learn more. I'd also be happy to be part of the group if I had the support of other councillors. Therefore, I would like to put up a motion that the Road Infrastructure Planning Manager be requested to prepare a report to a future City Infrastructure Committee meeting reviewing the terms of reference of the previous Road Safety and Bicycle Advisory Committee and investigate the potential benefits for council and the community of reforming a similar advisory group.
Thanks very much. I was going to open the floor for discussion. Does anyone want to add to that? Mr. Ranawira?
Since our discussion, I had a discussion with the governance manager as well. And it is possible to have these advisory committees under the current legislation, as I understand now. They are not decision-making bodies, but they're going to be totally advisory kind of bodies, and there are advantages for us. I think it would be good to at least change the recommendation to bring in governance manager into the recommendation as well, or liaising with governance manager, or whichever way we write the recommendation.
Councillor Stamp, are you okay with that adjustment?
It's necessary, absolutely.
Thanks. So we've got Councillor Stamp. We'll just get those changes up. So it's in conjunction with the Corporate Governance Manager. We've got Councillor Stamp to move the motion. Councillor Bradley seconded. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Carried unanimously with the exception of Councillor Raven, who's not in attendance at the moment. Is there any other GB for Mr. Ranawira? Thanks very much for your time today, gentlemen. Really appreciate it. Moving on to item 5.1 is a report into Capital Roadworks and Drainage Quarterly Report, July to September 2021. I now refer to item 5.1. Can the Road Infrastructure Delivery Manager, Mr. Simon Malouf, please enter the discussions? I understand that it's going to be a very quick presentation, Mr. Malouf, and I'm so excited by that. Before we open discussion on this item, do any councillors have a conflict of interest to declare? There being none, I now refer to Mr. Malouf to open the public discussion. You may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a routine report, so I will try and get through it as quickly as possible. I'll take it as read and just zoom in on the key details. In the first quarter of the year, the delivery for the roads group is generally in alignment with our expectations. $25 million of infrastructure delivered against a target of 23.9. That target did actually go up from where we thought we'd be at the start of the financial year. We were only originally anticipating about $21 million. So to date, in that first quarter, we didn't get a lot of wet weather, unlike what we're getting this month. So the expenditure wasn't affected too badly through that first quarter. It's been a good split and a good start to the year between, I guess, capital functions and rehabilitation functions, with both progressing well. $13.2 million in capital construction, 11.8 in rehabilitation works, and the normal expectations of the splits between contract delivery and road construction and maintenance there. One of the key things that I certainly wanted councillors to take away is the amount of work that we do currently have in the pipeline for delivery in project development. We've got $460 million plus currently being investigated, further $270 million in detailed design. There is $50 million in pre-construction activities. That's where works are currently being procured or contracts have been awarded, and we are awaiting commencement on site. And on the existing projects that we currently have underway, there is still a further $56 million of expenditure available in them as at the end of the first quarter. So a good pipeline of delivery coming through. Major projects under construction in the first quarter. We've got a start on the Chambers Flat Road upgrade between the Mount Lindesay Highway and Kingsway. That corridor has now been cleared. Service authorities have largely undertaken their works, and we are ready to undertake the main civil construction in the new year, which is great to see that project happening now. Jimboomba local roads upgrades, the 5 streets in Jimboomba Centre, RCM progressing well with those works, and now the early corridor clearing and service relocation works are done, and they are into the works proper as of August. Scott Lane Culvert replacement. Finally, we've got a better photograph to show you. This one still probably doesn't do it justice. That's been a lot of work to get that project up out of the ground through the drainage channel there, but that project is progressing well and still expected to be open in the first quarter next year, which will be fantastic. And Woodlands Drive master drainage progressing. We're nearly at the stage where we, I think from the program at the start of this month, we were still expecting contractors to be into the large pipes in the month of December. We'll just see how the wet weather will affect us at the moment, but if not before Christmas, it'll be soon after Christmas that we're into the 3 metre diameter pipes, which will be exciting to see, and we'll give further opportunities for councillors to come and have a look at those works when they're happening. We delivered the Loganlea Road Healthy Street project for the EDNS branch. That was finished just at the end of the quarter. Grand Plaza Drive Culvert rehabilitation. That's a major rehabilitation of some corrugated metal pipes and some concrete pipes underneath the car parks of the Grand Plaza shopping centre. I do note that project, once we've got into that network, the extent of the defects was certainly a lot more than had been picked up in the pre-inspection and the scoping of it, with a lot of defects found behind the pipes, with material having been siphoned off away from behind the pipes. So the scope has grown considerably on that project, but given it's the risks of the infrastructure above those pipes, we are taking the opportunity to make sure we get that a good solid structural rehabilitation on that network. It's almost, I think, over 4 kilometres of network that we're currently upgrading there. Rehabilitation programs, we're at 140 sites through the quarter between footpath, pavement, curb, bridge and stormwater rehabilitation, so certainly a strong presence in the community. Some really nice projects finished off. The Compton Road Cycleway pathway, that one has been on the books for a long time and finally managed to get the last bridges in, and with I believe the longest single span for a polymer bridge in Australia. The Tees Bridge opened up, a few local road upgrades, and Parkridge State High School car park was also good to see that one in finished construction. Major projects coming up in the next quarter. Gilmore Road upgrade, it's underway. That's great to be finally improving that link through there between Arshad Drive and Rod Gollage Drive. That works is underway now, with largely services being relocated in the early months of that project. Woodbeck Street a master drainage project, again due to commence this month. It may have been put back a little bit with the wet weather. Certainly, some other key projects starting up, Browns Plains Scrubby Creek Road intersection, another good one to finally be able to signalise that intersection, Albert Street and Station off-ramp. That one will be contracts awarded, construction likely to commence in the new year. A few master drainage projects kicking off. And the Middle Road, Teviot Road intersection interim upgrades, certainly kicking off probably around Q4, will be a great one to get underway as well. Major pavement rehab on Munruben Road, Jimboomba, yet to come, and the Leopardwood Road, Cedar Grove project. That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Thanks. I'll open it up for councillor discussion. Councillor Hall?
This is just a very, very simple question: is who chooses the colour of the bridges? It's you know, I mean, residents don't often get much control as to what is always put in, but it would be great if residents did actually have some kind of say as to colour of certain landmarks in certain areas. Or is there some other overriding thing in place as to why a bridge has to be a certain colour? Like we've got a red bridge in Councillor Murphy's area, we've got a yellow bridge in Mindy's area, we've got a couple of brown bridges in my area, wooden bridges. Where does the thought process go as to what colour the bridge is, and would there ever be an opportunity to open it up to consultation to residents as to what colour they could be?
Through you, Madam Chair. Thanks for the question, Councillor. In relation to the Compton Road Bridge, we consulted with Parks, I believe, on that one. Generally, the pedestrian bridges that we are doing usually in the around the park precincts, so we do have consultation there. We generally our bridges are just concrete, so they're certainly with the road bridges, so we certainly don't put much colour into them, unfortunately. But there may be a handful of projects coming up in the coming years. Certainly the bridge name has escaped me. We recently got grant funding to build across to run into across Slacks Creek. There might be an opportunity to do that. I think it's currently been nominated as a red colour, so happy to talk to you further on that one. Yeah, or the divisional councillor about how we might engage with the community there.
Nothing better than a good red bridge. The director wanted to talk to the red bridge at Beenleigh, and I said, no, just let it go. So are there any other councillors have questions?
Yes.
Councillor Bradley.
Thank you, through the chair. Now I've lost my page. The page where it referred to black spot funding, how do I find out what projects were under the black spot funding?
Through you, Madam Chair, we can provide you with that list, Councillor. There were a number of projects put up by the Road Infrastructure Planning Branch that were successful in getting grant funding, so we can provide you with that list.
Once upon a time we would get a report about those. Have we been told previously, or?
I'm not sure what reporting was done by the Road Infrastructure Planning Branch in selecting those sites, but we have been provided with those agreements, and from a construction and delivery point of view, we had just been proceeding with that one. So,
from memory, there would be certain projects that would be nominated that council would then support to go up for black spot funding, and so you're basically saying that it's at the officer level now the decision's being made?
Can I just interrupt there? Mr Director, I'll put it over to you, but I think that Mr Ranawira is the one that's actually got to send us that list as the manager of that section, am I right?
No, I'm just more curious about the process. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can certainly arrange with the Manager of Roads Infrastructure Planning with Mr Ranawira to come back and talk through that process. I'm not sure whether that did come either. We would need to go back and look at that. So I guess I'm not saying that didn't come by council. I think we probably need to go back and review that, but we can certainly come and talk to you about that. Yep.
Sorry, I beg pardon, through the chair. I don't really want to that you talk to me about it. I just want to know the process, because previously it would always be subject of a report.
Certainly, in saying that we come and talk to you, I was to discuss the process and make sure that we articulate that clearly. Yep. Okay, that's fine. Yep.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else have a question for Mr. Maloof? That was a great presentation. It was really easy to understand. The spending is astronomical, and I'm sure local residents are amazed by how much is actually invested by Logan City Council, as well as getting partner funding from state and feds. So thank you very much for that. And can we have a mover for the motion that's on the screen? Councillor Stamp, seconded Councillor Wilcox. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's been carried unanimously with the exception of Councillor Raven, who's not with us at the moment still. So moving on, do we have, oh, this is my favourite part. We've got general business for, does anyone have any general business for Mr. Maloof? Is that for Mr. Maloof? Okay, Councillor Wilcox.
Thank you. First of all, I just wanted to start with a bit of a thank you to both of you and your teams for Saturday. We held a community information session regarding the Teviot Road roundabout, Middle Road roundabout, and the Teviot Road upgrades. I think we had 90 people registered to attend on Saturday. Is that right?
We ended up having 130 people through the doors, Councillor.
So just for those playing along at home, so 90 people registered, about half those didn't turn up. But yeah, we got about 130, 140 people that actually came through the door, which was terrific. I needed residents to come in and have their say. I wanted them to be heard. But I would like, could I get also a summary of the feedback that was given by the residents on the day, any of the survey stuff that comes through, and again, could someone pop up and see me so you can get a snapshot of all the Facebook comments, not just my comments, but I need to follow the shares so that you can see the rest of the comments, because everyone, you know, there's been passing comments made on Facebook, oh, they're not going to capture this, and I'm like, yes, I'm going to get someone up, I want this all captured so that your feedback is gathered and that sort of thing. So if we can set a time for that.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, we'll certainly arrange for that.
Perfect. Now, the people on Saturday that did attend, do we know where they were from? Were they all from Greenbank, or where were they from in Div 11?
Through you, Madam Chair. Through my own contact with residents, it was certainly a broad range. Some people were regular users of the road. Some people were local residents who are going to be affected by the works. And some people just had an interest in regional transport, which was interesting to talk to them. But had a great cross-section of the community and certainly reflected a community that's thinking a lot about what their needs are and asked a lot of great questions. One of the things that really I think helped was for the first time we've actually been able to show our 5-year plan across the major trunk network, and we're able to talk about not just the individual project but everything that's coming, and a body of work that will see us working on about $1.1 billion worth of infrastructure just on the major parts of the network over the next 5 years between planning, design and delivery. So that certainly all helped to I guess answer a lot of the questions that were put to us.
It did, and I sat at the exit point when people were walking out, had a really good conversation with most people. Most of it was pretty good feedback. It was, some of them did give me some other feedback and that sort of thing, which is taken into account, and you did have to feel for a couple that live underneath where their house was going to be resumed and that sort of thing. And I think for those residents that did come saying, well, what are you going to do about the school? I think it will make so much more sense in March next year when we can release that next section or that next trench of work and having it all laid out. I think it will make so much more sense for them and that sort of thing. But I just wanted to touch on getting the communication, getting the comms out there to the residents and stuff. I think the VMS boards played a really good role. There was five of them out in the division and that sort of thing. But originally you said you were going to send letters to all of Greenbank. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Chair, we created a distribution list based on the properties that would be in the vicinity of the works and the project, and with a high level of interest in it, and we delivered around about 1,800 pieces of correspondence to those areas. So it was the message of the letter was road upgrades in Greenbank, because that's, I guess, one of the main projects, or one of the main arterial links in Greenbank. But no, we did not commit to sending a correspondence to every Greenbank resident. It was on a distribution map that's created around the zone of influence of the project.
Okay, because originally I thought it was going to all of Greenbank, hence why I didn't send letters to all of Greenbank, because I didn't want to double up with those residents and that sort of thing. But I still don't think the majority of those residents even turned up. I contacted quite a few residents in Greenbank that I knew, and I had doubles and triples of people living on the same road, and they didn't receive a letter. But I'm curious how long it took to hand deliver these letters to those 1,800 homes.
Through you, Madam Chair, there were a number of officers that went and did that about over a 2-day period. We couldn't achieve security over getting them through the mail, so with the timing that we had to actually get them out, so the officers decided to ensure that people could get them in their hands as soon as possible, a couple of weeks out from the event. The comms team, plus I believe might have been 1 or 2 other people from administration helped out, and we got those letters out to those areas.
Do we have a number of how many staff we used to letterbox drop?
Through you, Madam Chair, off the top of my head, I can't tell you, but I would have been, I think, at least 3 people who were involved. Yeah.
3 people, councillors, to deliver 1,800 letters. I'd like to hire them to actually go and deliver mine if they can get it out there that quick. I letterbox dropped for 3 months and I didn't get it out to everyone, but that's by the by. The other thing is, you told me in the end I worked out that you weren't actually going to send letters, but you actually did in fact send letters. So staff on level 5, so Greg and Kylie, thanks. They've actually collated, there's 253 letters that were sent, 150 are here sent back. We sent letters to the Crown Reserve for kindergarten purposes, care of Logan City Council, and we sent another one to Logan City Council, PO Box 3226. As a property owner and a resident. So interesting to see that the data wasn't cleansed properly before it actually even was sent out. So that was a waste. But then off my own back, I sent out 4,577 letters. And because of the timing that I had to send these letters out, because of the time-sensitive nature that the residents needed to know, and I got told not to send it to Flagstone residents because I don't know why. Actually, can you answer that? Can you tell me why I wasn't supposed to send the letter to Flagstone?
Through you, Madam Chair, I'd need to know who advised you that.
Mr Maloof, just a moment. Mr Director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would probably question the position around a direction that you weren't to send them to Flagstone, to a correction which said that under the project that we were not intending to send them to Flagstone. And Flagstone being a significant distance away from the project, we do have limits on how far we do send specific mail around specific projects and tying that back. I'm certainly aware of the correspondence which you've brought along today, and highlighting that there was certainly mail which came back. That the letters which were actually sent were sent to property owners where we had a absentee owner, or it was a rental property. There was a significant number of those which has come back, which I have already undertaken with you to go away and investigate how that occurred. Certainly we do draw upon council's internal address system to do that. I'm unclear at this stage why there were so many that were in that category, but it certainly is a matter which I've undertaken to actually review, and I will come back to you in regards to that.
Oh, I can answer that. So just to put my 2 bobs worth in, council system is flawed in that it will only send to the owner of the property rather than the enrolled person listed at the address, and that merging those 2 documents, as the staff on level 5 have found, can sometimes be a very extensive and lengthy process unless you have a very clever young woman who's able to circumvent that system. Councillor Bradley.
Just on that, I really don't think it's appropriate to be talking to staff like this in this forum. That's just my opinion. But I know you can write to owners and residents. I've done it many, many times. So you can.
Thank you very much. Councillor Wilcox.
Sorry, still going. So Flagstone residents did receive a letter from me, and they received basically the exact same letter from me. So just to make it very clear, I sent 4,577 letters, and they were sent to North and South Maclean, Flagstone and Newbeath, because that's basically all I could afford, because that cost me just under $4,400 to send it out. Now, I decided to send it to Flagstone because Scotts Lane is closed. The residents in Flagstone are basically travelling Teviot Road and through that roundabout, and they needed to know. And I needed as many touch points as I could to get the message across for those residents to come and attend. So I needed the VMS boards. It didn't hit the paper at all. It was up online, but it didn't hit the paper, and a letter. And on my Facebook. So they really only had a couple of touch points to get the feedback to make sure that they had enough knowledge that they could attend and that sort of thing. So I wanted to make that clear. I'm hoping that Mr. Riley is going to do something with the postage, because basically I have no postage left because I've used it in one hit. I had to use postage. I couldn't let a box drop. There was nothing I could do because of how time sensitive this was to get the message across and that sort of thing. So that's pretty much all I've got on that. The only other thing is, one, could I please pop out and see this progress of Scotts Lane? I have emailed about this a couple of weeks ago, but I haven't heard anything back before Christmas breaks. And another point on Scotts Lane, Scotts Lane was closed in June this year. I had meetings in the first half of this year regarding the closure of Scotts Lane and the residents driving Teviot Road and getting to Greenbank Road and not having enough room to go around the cars. Now this went away and this was investigated, and all I said was I wanted a bit of a turning bay so that one car could turn right and another car could scoot around the side of it. It went and got investigated, came back too expensive, got investigated again. Yes, it came back to what I originally wanted. This took months, but it still isn't there. The residents still can't get through. My traffic is still banking back. By the time this is probably delivered, Scotts Lane will probably be open. So just wondering where the progress is on this.
Through you, Madam Chair. Yep, certainly when that was investigated, the original solution came up for being substantially more expensive than what would be, I guess, appropriate for the location. We then took that to try and find a much lower cost solution. At the moment, we are still grappling we've had pricing from Council's internal road delivery branch, we've had pricing from contractors, and we are still looking at probably somewhere in the order of $140,000 solution for that. And that is being finalised to be brought back to you as an option. We'll still be benefiting from proceeding with that, but we will engage with you in the coming week.
Thanks for that. Just to let councillors know, Councillor Wilcox had raised these issues prior coming to committee and wanted to raise them in a public forum, which she's been given the latitude to do this morning. Is there any other general business, Councillor Wilcox? Any other general business for Mr Malouf or the directors? Councillor Bradley.
Yeah. I just want to give feedback that I think it's absolutely awesome the length that you went to for that consultation. I have never seen anything like that in council ever before. I've always taken it on my back to do it myself, and I don't know of any other staff going out and hand delivering and stuff like that. That is unheard of, so thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much, Councillor. The staff did really try and go over and above to make sure that was a positive engagement. At the moment, the website for the Teviot Road upgrade is the 7th most visited site on Council's website. We've had nearly 7,000 hits, and yeah, it does appear that the message is getting out there really well. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much. If there's no further questions, that completes our agenda for today. I declare the City Infrastructure Committee meeting of 30 November 2021 concluded at 12:02 p.m. Thank you very much, everyone.